Touchdown, buzzer beater, do it all now. All now, top corner talking home run. Touchdown, buzzer beater, do it all now. All now, top corner like ooh.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is Monday, April 21st, 2025, and this is the Monday Report. I'm your host, H. James K., and today on this second consecutive episode about the NFL Draft, we are going to be doing a complete first-round NFL mock draft. We're going to go through all 32 picks in the first round. There's going to be some trades. We're going to talk about all the different players involved. Going to give you a little bit of things about some of the teams. It's going to be awesome. So let's get right into this right off the bat. So with the first pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans are going to select Cam Ward, quarterback from Miami. Cam Ward is the best quarterback in the draft. The Tennessee Titans have spent all their time focused on Cam Ward for their first pick. They need a quarterback. Everybody knows that Cam Ward is going to be the selection for the Tennessee Titans, so we're moving on. With the second pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns are going to select Travis Hunter, who played both wide receiver and cornerback for the Colorado Buffaloes. Travis Hunter is arguably the best player in the draft, in my opinion. I have him top of my rankings. He played both wide receiver and corner in college, and he was great at both. Arguably, he could be the best at both positions, at either or position, if he chose to dedicate his time to one completely in college. But because he didn't, I don't know if I'd rank him as the best at either, but he's a great player. All right. With the third pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants are going to select Abdul Carter, who played edge for Penn State. Carter, game-wrecking defensive lineman, huge problem, pass rusher, tenacious, all those words you use about those great edge players like Aiden Hutchinson and Micah Parsons and Trey Hendrickson and all that in the league. Abdul Carter is all of that. These first three picks, I think, are really kind of baked in my opinion. I don't think there's going to be much drama in the first three picks, but the fourth pick is where we're going to get some drama. All right, now, with the fourth pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots are going to trade their pick to the San Francisco 49ers, who are going to select Mason Graham, D-tackle from the University of Michigan. Yes, the San Francisco 49ers, who have something like 11 draft picks in this draft, are going to trade with the Patriots for a whole host of picks to jump in front of the Jacksonville Jaguars and select Mason Graham, who everyone kind of knows the Jacksonville Jaguars really want to draft. The Niners really need defensive line help. They shed a whole bunch of players in free agency this year, and they're needing to get younger, and Mason Graham is the perfect kind of D-tackle for the Niners scheme. So I would love this trade. I think this trade would be awesome for both because New England, more than they need like a banner blue chip guy, they need a lot of things everywhere. So if they can trade back from 4 and get a whole bunch of picks from the Niners, including obviously the Niners' 11th overall pick, that would be ideal for the Patriots in my opinion. So the Niners are trading up to draft Mason Graham with the 4th overall pick. With the 5th overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to select Jalen Walker, who played edge for Georgia. Jalen Walker, great defensive player, great edge, can play both linebacker and edge, kind of one of those smaller edge players. He's pretty decent in coverage. He's a tenacious, fast guy with good hand movement. So Jalen Walker going to Jacksonville, especially considering Mason Graham, in my mock, is going to the San Francisco 49ers. With the 6th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to select Tyler Warren. Now, the popular pick amongst most people is that the Raiders are going to pick Ashton Jeanty. Now, considering the way my mock is going, Tyler Warren is still on the board at 6. And the Raiders would be fools not to draft Tyler Warren. Yes, they've already drafted a pretty decent tight end last year, but Warren is one of these guys who I think you can use just as much in the pass game as the run game, and I think especially if you're a team that wants to run the ball more and play defense, having a guy who can both block and run and play running back and play quarterback, he's the kind of offensive weapon that you really could need. So I really like that pick for Vegas. It's kind of out of the box, and it's kind of like doubling down on a need that they kind of picked last year, but I really like Warren for the Raiders, and I really hope the Raiders pick him because I would love to see what they would do with Geno Smith at quarterback and Tyler Warren at tight end and / slot receiver and everything. So with the 7th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Jets are going to select Armand Membou, who played offensive tackle for the Mizzou Tigers. The Jets need offensive line help. That's not a secret. Their offensive line has been a turnstile for the last 3+ years. So this is one of those picks where while Will Campbell might be the more technically sound tackle, I like Membou more just because his size, his measurables, his overall game, I just kind of like a little bit more for the Jets, especially considering the Jets' new direction is going to want to run the ball more and play more defense and kind of chew clock and that Detroit Lions style of playing ball, and you need good O-line play for that. So Armand Membou for the 7th for the Jets. With the 8th overall pick, the Carolina Panthers are going to select Mykel Williams, edge for the University of Georgia. Mykel Williams, big, fast, tough defensive edge who can play inside and outside. He's much more of a traditional defensive lineman than someone like Jalen Walker. Considering the way my draft is going, Mykel Williams falling to the Panthers would be spectacular for them because they desperately need defensive line help in Carolina. Their defense was truly abysmal in 2024, so they could really use this pick. Now here's another pick that's really going to kind of throw some people. So with the 9th overall pick, the New Orleans Saints select Shedeur Sanders. Now most NFL mock drafts have Shedeur Sanders going 3rd overall, but to the New York Giants. But to me, I think he's going to fall. I think there's been too much noise about his game and about other players and this and that. I think people are going to make mistakes and pass on him, and he's going to fall all the way into the lap of the New Orleans Saints, which is great for New Orleans because Derek Carr injured himself, and it's looking like he might miss the entire 2025 season. So this might be a really great time for New Orleans to just get in on the ground floor and start the rebuild and just get a new quarterback and be done with it. Instead of continuing this we're totally not rebuilding, I promise, kind of thing that they've been doing for the last 5 years or whatever. With the 10th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears are going to select Calvin Banks Jr., tackle from Texas. Calvin Banks Jr. is the kind of guy who, if you're a team that wants to run the ball, which I think the Bears are going to want to do a lot, he can really help you solidify your offensive line. They've already done several that. They've brought in 3 offensive linemen in free agency, but they still need help at tackle, and a guy like Calvin Banks Jr. going to Chicago with his good run blocking skills, I think would be a perfect pick, especially for the kind of ball that is played right now in the NFC North. So Calvin Banks Jr. going to the Bears. With the 11th pick, the New England Patriots, in a pick that was traded to them from the Niners, are going to select Will Campbell, tackle from LSU. Will Campbell, most technically refined tackle in the draft, but he didn't measure well at the combine, and he didn't really test great either, which can be overblown because, like I said, he is still the most technically sound tackle in the draft. But I really like this pick for New Orleans. God, why do I keep saying New Orleans? For New England, because they need O-line help desperately, and if they can get Will Campbell at 11 for significantly cheaper than someone like Armand Membou up at 4 or whatever, that would be really good. Not only would it help their salary cap, but I don't think they lose too much value by picking the 3rd tackle on the board instead of the 1st tackle on the board. And they also still got all those extra draft picks that they would have had to get from this trade anyway. So I really like this pick. Now, here's some more drama. With the 12th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys trade back their pick and trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who move up and select Jahdae Barron, cornerback from the Texas Longhorns. Barron's a pretty solid corner. He's got some size issues, but he's got speed, he's got good body positioning, and he's got good hands. And for Jacksonville Jaguar, whose defense was not great, they could really use this pick in their secondary because they've kind of taken steps to help with their linebackers a little and their defensive line a little, but the back end of their defense could still use some help. So look for the Cowboys to disappoint all their fans and trade back again instead of just taking a blue chip guy that they could truthfully use, and for the Jacksonville Jaguars to move up here and select Jahdae Barron. Now, with the 13th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins trade their pick to the Seattle Seahawks, who select Colston Loveland, tight end from the University of Michigan. Like I said, Colston Loveland would be the number one tight end in the draft if it wasn't for Tyler Warren. He can run with the ball, he can block well, he's great catching the ball, he's good at like the end zone jump balls that you need. He's underrated athletically, he can play both inside and outside, standing up and with his hand in the dirt. He's a great all-around tight end who I really would dig in Seattle's offense. I think that would be a pick that would be really awesome. And, I mean, admittedly, there is a connection. Mike Macdonald was the defensive coordinator at Michigan when Colston Loveland was a true freshman. So they do technically know each other a little bit, but I don't think that would be why he'd be drafted by Seattle. But this would allow Seattle to trade up in front of Indianapolis, who desperately needs a tight end. And with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland off the board, that does kind of spell bad news for the Indianapolis Colts. Speaking of the Colts, with the 14th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Jihad Campbell, linebacker from the Alabama Crimson Tide. Campbell is a great linebacker, and he's the kind of guy who isn't going to impress a lot of Colts fans who desperately want a pass catcher or something to help their offense and to potentially rescue their inept, horribly overdrafted quarterback, Anthony Richardson. But in all reality, Jihad Campbell to the Colts might actually be a net positive, better than like Tyler Warren, just because that defense was not good last year. And getting a guy who you can rely on in the middle of your defense is so important for constructing a roster. Like right now, the Lions have great linebackers. That was always an issue in the Matt Patricia era. That was always an issue, was the linebacker play, because we just couldn't draft good linebackers. So if the Colts can get Jihad Campbell and really nail down that middle linebacker spot, that really sets them up super well going forward, just across the board on defense. Moving on, with the 15th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons will select Will Johnson, cornerback from the University of Michigan. Johnson's a ball hawk, he's fast, he's tall, he's got good measurables, great hand placement, spacing, ball positioning, all of that. He's got the skills you want as a cornerback, and when he is confident in the scheme he's running, he's elite. The kind of guy who just takes a side of the field away in the secondary. Revis Island kind of guy. Will Johnson, and he gets pick sixes all the time. At Michigan, he got several of them. He got something like 3 of them in 2023. He got at least 1 in 24. He got a couple in 2022. He was just one of those guys who was adept at catching the ball on defense. With the 16th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Matthew Golden, wide receiver from the University of Texas. Matthew Golden is a very fast receiver. He's got pretty good size. He's very much like Xavier Worthy and every other wide receiver that Texas has under Steve Sarkisian right now. He's the kind of guy who a lot of Cowboys fans really want to draft. They really want the Cowboys to draft him, but I don't think the Cowboys are that smart. So instead, they're going to let him stay on the board, and he's going to fall all the way to 16, where the Arizona Cardinals are going to take him. He's the kind of guy who can really help Kyler Murray in the pass game because he's got size, he's got blazing speed, he's got good hands, he's a pretty solid route runner. He's the kind of guy you want in a rookie receiver. With the 17th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, The Cincinnati Bengals select Donovan Ezriaku, edge, Boston College. This kid was so productive at Boston College. He had 16 and a half sacks in his last season in 2024. He's a great edge. He's got good hand skills. He uses leverage really, really well. And like I said, he was extremely productive for Boston College. He's one of these guys who is kind of been silently moving up the draft boards a lot. And it's one of these picks where for Cincinnati, who desperately needs defensive line help, especially if they can't re-sign Trey Hendrickson, having a productive rookie edge on their defense could be a godsend to helping Joe Burrow and that offense actually get into the playoffs again. So I like that pick, Donovan Ezriaku for the Cincinnati Bengals. With the 18th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Malachi Starks, who played safety for the Georgia Bulldogs. Malachi Starks has been a guy who's been at the top of draft boards pretty much since he walked on campus for the Georgia Bulldogs. He's one of these guys who is just a problem on defense. He's a hard hitter. He's good in run defense for a safety. He's good against tight ends. He can really bully wide receivers off of their routes and out of position and really disrupt things in the box on run defense. And yet he does have the speed to run with guys deep, and he has the ball skills to disrupt passes down the field. He's the kind of guy you want as for a safety. With the 19th overall pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Mike Green, edge from Marshall. Mike Green is a guy who I saw mocked to the Lions a lot last fall as he had productive games against Ohio State and several G5 teams, group of 5. But the Combine kind of changed everything. Between his pro day and the Combine, he has just shot up draft boards, and my Lions won't get someone like Mike Green. Instead, I think Tampa Bay is going to be super lucky. They desperately need help on their D-line. They really, really do need it. They had a pretty decent pass rush, but it wasn't what you would want. And their run defense from their defensive line wasn't great last year. So for Tampa Bay to get a guy like Mike Green would be huge. It'd be absolutely massive for that defense to help turn things around and give them some much-needed boost on defense. Now, for the 20th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Ashton Jeanty, running back, Boise State. Jeanty falling instead of 6 where everyone's projecting with the Raiders all the way down to 20, I think is realistic because I don't know if anyone's going to have the balls to select a running back in the top 10, let alone at 6th overall. But if he falls to Denver at 20, that's massive for Denver. Bo Nix is a great quarterback. They've got an okay offense, but man, if they could get someone like Ashton Jeanty to really energize their run game, that offense can take off. Because when the run game was working last year, Bo Nix was on fire. When it wasn't, he was okay, but there was something missing in the offense. So if they can get Ashton Jeanty in Denver, that's huge. Ashton Jeanty would be... their fans would lose their mind. They would swoon. It'd be amazing. So I love that pick for Denver. Moving on, with the 21st pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jackson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss. I like Jackson Dart to Pittsburgh, and a lot of people have been mocking him that way, even though they're technically in discussions with Aaron Rodgers. But at this point, I think Aaron Rodgers is just going to retire. He wants to play for the Vikings, but the Vikings aren't interested because they drafted J.J. McCarthy. So I think Pittsburgh is going to just bite the bullet and draft a guy to just kind of move on. And Jackson Dart, with his athleticism, his arm strength, his production, might have the potential to really be something for Pittsburgh, assuming Mike Tomlin can develop him, which remains to be seen considering Mike Tomlin has never developed a quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger was developed by his predecessor. So maybe Jackson Dart can be the difference maker for Pittsburgh. Here's hoping. With the 22nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon. Derek Harmon is one of these big, imposing defensive linemen that you see a lot, and he was huge for Oregon. He messed some teams up. I remember he messed Michigan up something fierce. He was all over the place on the D-line against Michigan, and he had several huge games, and he was very productive. He's got great size, deceptively good speed. He uses his power really, really well in the trenches to move offensive linemen out of the way and to deal with having like multiple gap responsibilities at one time. He's one of those kind of guys. And for Jim Harbaugh and the defense he runs under Jesse Minter, Derek Harmon, short of getting Mason Graham, is a perfect pick for what they want to achieve, I really like that pick. With the 23rd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select James Pierce Jr., edge, Tennessee. James Pierce Jr., extremely athletic edge. He's got great skills of setting an edge and moving tackles out of the way and using his speed. He's got an insane burst. He's the kind of guy who has upside and downside. Now, he might bust. We've seen guys like this before who just don't amount to anything. But if he works out for the Packers, he's going to be a problem for everybody in the NFC North for like 10 or 15 years. Because he's got that kind of burst. He's got that insane speed. And if he can kind of be crafted into one of these like technician type of defensive linemen, he could be a huge game wrecker for the Packers. Especially at the position of need like edge with the Packers. With the 24th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Nick Emenwari, safety from South Carolina. I like this pick because they need to get younger in the secondary. They need to get younger on defense in general, but especially in the secondary. And Nick Emenwari is everything you want in a safety, arguably, especially for a scheme that is as tough and physical as the Minnesota Vikings defense is. He can play in the box. He can play deep. He was very, very, very productive at South Carolina. So I really like this pick a lot. With the 25th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State. This is the first Buckeye on our list, which is a little surprising to some people probably. But Josh Simmons was a pretty decent tackle for Ohio State, and Houston Texans, they just need all the O-linemen they can. They're like a MASH unit right now. They're just so bad. So Josh Simmons, while he isn't the flashiest tackle prospect in the draft, he might be one of these guys who you pick up later in the draft without having to sacrifice extra capital to move up. But he's technically proficient enough that where you might be able to just plug him in early and just go. So for Houston Texans, this pick makes all the sense in the world. With the 26th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Trey Amos, cornerback, Ole Miss. Trey Amos he was one of these kind of undersized one-on-one coverage corners at the college level. I like this pick a lot because he's really good at moving wide receivers off their spot and disrupting the timing of pass plays, and he was very productive when it came to interceptions. He does have a tendency to sometimes overcommit in coverage, but I really like Trey Amos this late in the draft because, as I said in my previous episode, this late in the draft, it's kind of the end of the first and the beginning of the second, even though they're on different days, are kind of nebulous in their talent level. You stop seeing the, gotta have him blue chip guys. You start seeing this guy's got a lot more upside, but he's still a much better player than you'd get in, the fourth round. So Trey Amos to the Los Angeles Rams. With the 27th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Kenneth Grant, D-tackle from the University of Michigan. Kenneth Grant might be the second best defensive tackle in the history of Michigan football, only behind his teammate Mason Graham. Now, he's a little more raw than Mason Graham, and he wasn't as productive, but his sheer size, considering he played at over 335 pounds in college, and the speed he displays even at that size, make him one of these guys who you just want, because I remember at Michigan seeing him chasing down chasing down running backs several yards down the field, even though he was a 335-pound defensive tackle. He's one of those kind of guys. And you want that kind of guy in the middle of your defense. He plays in a similar scheme in college that the Ravens run in the NFL. So this makes more than perfect sense, where you can just slide him in with the Ravens and just kind of move on and hit the ground running. Now, most people have the Detroit Lions selecting a defensive player, but I chose differently. With the 28th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, my Detroit Lions select Gray Zabel, guard from North Dakota State University. Now, this is a kind of a weird pick because the Lions are known for their offensive line play, but in reality, they lost one in free agency, and Graham Glasgow is getting old, and he just wasn't great last year. And Gray Zabel, who played admittedly for FCS North Dakota State, is one of these guys who's got a ton of upside. He was a really solid run blocker. He can use some work in the pass game, but with Christian Mahogany kind of developing into a guard, you might be able to draft Gray Zabel and either have him as a backup rotational center or slide him into that other guard spot instead of Graham Glasgow and just really improve the O-line play that the Lions had to allow them to really continue dominating people physically in the trenches like they did specifically in 2023. With the 29th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Shamar Stewart, edge, Texas A&M. Shamar Stewart going to the Commanders would be very demoralizing because he's a really flashy physical specimen with the tape you really want, even though he doesn't have a lot of the production. But getting him in a defense like the Washington defense from last year is kind of a scary prospect because of the things he might be able to achieve in that kind of defense. So I really like this pick a lot, especially because while they could trade up to get someone more flashy like Mike Green or whatever, or Jalen Walker, getting Shamar Stewart at 29th without having to sacrifice any capital would be huge not only for their salary cap, but it's tremendous value at the 29th pick, which is always important in the draft. With the 30th pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Maxwell Hairston, cornerback, Kentucky. Maxwell Hairston was a cornerback who played almost exclusively in man coverage. He's very much a Detroit Lions style corner where they play, it's just you and me in press coverage, and we're just like, I'm going to move you off your spot and disrupt you the whole way. Maxwell Hairston is that guy, but he also had a ton of picks and pick sixes in college, especially in 2024. He's one of these guys who a lot of people aren't talking about Maxwell Hairston, but I really like this pick for the Buffalo Bills because they desperately need a cornerback on defense, and he has tons of upside, especially if you use him to his strengths. Now, if you try to force him into a zone-only scheme, he's probably going to struggle because he played a ton of press man coverage in the in college at Kentucky. But if you play to his strengths, he might be a serious, no one saw that coming kind of pick in the first round, which you like. With the 31st pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Josh Conerly, tackle, Oregon. Josh Conerly was a great tackle for Oregon. He's one of these big athletic offensive linemen that you're seeing a lot more out of Oregon under Dan Lanning's stewardship. He's got pretty decent run skills. He does have issues with his hand placement and sometimes can get kind of lost in the wash, so to speak. But this late in the first round, you really like this pick. He adds a ton of upside, and he can allow the Chiefs to start kind of rebuilding their offensive line, especially at the tackle position where they had serious issues in 2024. So Josh Conerly, I really like this pick for Kansas City. I hope they kind of go there because he might be able to do some really cool things with Andy Reid's offense. With the 32nd and final pick of the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jordan Burch, edge, Oregon. A lot of Oregon players at the very end of the draft. Jordan Burch wasn't the sexiest defensive end / edge prospect you've seen in this draft process, but he's one of these guys who's just been secretly kind of sneaky under the radar, super productive. He did kind of get bullied in the playoffs against Ohio State, but then again, so did everyone else in Oregon. And Ashton Jeanty really did kind of bully the Oregon offensive line in week 2 last year, but ultimately, in totality, Jordan Burch had a very good season, and he's got really underrated physical measurables and prowess in the trenches. It would be unfair for the Philadelphia Eagles to get another excellent blue chip defensive prospect, considering that seems to be all they do in the NFL draft these days. But Jordan Burch to the Eagles might be one of those that is talked about a little less, but has a ton of upside as he kind of grows into the position and adapts to a more NFL defensive scheme. So that's going to wrap up the first round mock draft of the 2025 NFL draft that I've got prepared. So next week, we're going to be focusing on an NFL draft wrap-up where we're going to talk about winners and losers. We're going to go... I'm going to share my thoughts about surprising things that happen in the draft, and if there's any crazy trades, we'll talk about all that, and the teams that did really well drafting and the teams who I think did a really poor job. We're going to talk about all that next week. And then after that, it's the month of May, and it's IndyCar season. So for those of you watching on YouTube, thank you. I know my channel is small. Thank you for seeking me out. If you're watching, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell icon. Feed the algorithm, help spread the word of the channel. For those of you listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, thank you. It's hard to find my channel, my podcast, but I really appreciate it. We're slowly building, but we're building. Thank you. So my name is H. James K. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.